in the diamond. I just don't know when I'm going to do it yet.
That's so exciting.
Well, we're going to Orlando in like a couple of weeks.
All right, I'd like to call this public hearing of Monday, February 24th to order. If we could rise for the invocation and pledge. Ms. McDaniel, please lead us in the invocation.
All right, let's bow our heads and pray together. Heavenly Father, thank you for this evening. Thank you for this opportunity to work together for the city of Streetsboro. Lord, we appreciate every blessing you give us and every individual in this room who plays such an important role in the government of our city. Please give us clear communication tonight. Help us to use wisdom and common sense in all of the decisions that we make. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Mayor?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For some reason I hit my microphone. Your bird, everything was on here.
Keeping the minutes tonight.
Oh boy.
It's on the machine too.
Bridget, can you please call roll?
Oh, Mr. Ring,
Here.
Mr. Mishniak, Mr. Hannon,
Here.
Mr. Lombardo,
Here.
Ms. Wagner, Mrs. McDaniel,
Present.
Ms. Glenn,
Make a motion to excuse Mr. Mishniak.
Second?
First and second to excuse Mr. Mishniak. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, he is excused.
Who made that?
John
John made the
and
motion. Who
Tony.
seconded?
All right, item 4, agricultural placement renewal request for Francis P. Shin, trustee, and Peggy A. Gilchrist, successor trustee for 8840 Diagonal Road, Streetsboro, Ohio, 47.06 acres. Do we have anybody here? Do you have anything to add?
No, we're still, oh, sorry. We're still farming it. I don't know what this is about. We already talked to the county. Is this just normal?
Yeah, we just have to approve the
Procedure.
agricultural placement, so.
Yep, no, we're still, Jim Ballantyne is farming it, and he's been doing that since the 80s. So my
Great.
family's been there since 1927, so
Great, okay.
that's it?
Yep, very good, yeah.
Okay.
Could you state your name, please, for the record?
John Swartz.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz.
Yep.
Okay, we do have to vote on this in the regular council meeting, so that's been placed on after third reading. Perfect. So because it's on there, I'd like to entertain a motion to move it to full council.
Second.
Oh, so moved.
Second.
You're in a public hearing, you can't move.
Oh, you're right, never mind.
Withdraw the motion.
Yep.
Withdraw the motion. Yeah, okay.
I withdraw
Yeah, I'm
my
sorry, in a
second.
public hearing, we cannot do that. No, it's okay. All right, item 5, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
First and second to adjourn, all in favor? Any opposed?
Or aye. I said aye.
Hearing none, we're adjourned.
And that's the extent. If you want to stay, you can stay.
I know, I do not. I appreciate it. Good night.
Good night.
Thinks he was honest.
Sorry, I didn't mean to overstep.
No, you're good, you're right, you're right. I didn't think about it, I forgot, just so used to the committees.
Yeah.
You want the hammer?
No, I'm good. As long as everyone agrees to stay in line tonight, we should be good. I'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting of Monday, February 24th, 2025 to order. I'm going to skip over that because we've already done that part. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ring,
Here,
Mr. Mishniak, Mr. Hannon,
Here.
Mr. Lombardo,
Here.
Ms. Wagner, Mrs. McDaniel,
Present.
Ms. Glenn.
motion to excuse Mr. Mishniak?
Second.
First and a second to excuse Mr. Mishniak. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, he is excused. Let's see, item 4, disposition of minutes, Finance Committee meeting of December 30th, 2024.
Motion to accept as written.
Second.
First and a second to accept as written. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, those are accepted. Item 5, monthly financial report. Mr. Matt Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Hannon. This is the monthly financial report for the month of January. Nothing too exciting because we're only 1 month in, but expenses were about 9% and revenues about 8%. Expenses a little higher because usually about midway through December, we kind of have to close down the system, freeze it, and we have a lot of stuff in the pipeline. So when we start doing January expenses, cash basis wise, we start posting a lot of those invoices. So that's why that's up a little bit. And then, of course, we have quite a bit in open POs. Usually when a new budget comes out, there's a little bit of a PO blitz with new budgets. So got a bit of that in the system. Keeping an eye out. Probably one expense that's got my attention the most is just OT. We've obviously had a lot of snowstorms, which require a lot of overtime, and that comes mainly out of the 201 fund. So that one's a little bit higher than probably that is normal, but that is something over the summer that can kind of get ironed out. That's a seasonal factor when it comes with snowplow. Year over year, we spent up for the month of January. Spent about 1.3 million. That's almost $250,000 up from 2024. Again, there's that pipeline issue. Just a lot of pending invoices. Income tax isn't that exciting. It's pretty much been the same. I kind of call it a little dull. But again, we're just in January. We were kind of expecting a little bit more, but must not have been as many Christmas bonuses, was one of my theories with withholding. Cash-wise, we're up about 33.2 million. That's up about 4.3 from last year. But again, you got to factor in the City Hall bond. And so you kind of need to minus a portion of that to really get true cash. Right now, our PO for City Hall is sitting at about $6 million. So we spent about $1,050,000 in invoices thus far through January. And interest down a little bit, about $90,000 for revenue. And then also provided you the general fund carryover for the 25%. That's about $3.2 million for the general fund. Any questions on any of the financials?
Nothing? There's no questions. Appreciate the monthly financial report, Mr. Miller. And we'll move on to item 6, old business. There is none. Item 7, new business. Entertain a motion to recess into executive session to to discuss employee hiring / termination.
So moved.
Second.
First and second to recess into executive session. Roll call, please.
It was Ring and Mr. Lombardo?
Correct.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Ms. Glenn?
Yes.
Mr. Hannon?
Yes. We are in executive session.
Do I get to stay?
We'll let you know in a minute.
We ready?
Make a motion to reconvene from executive session.
I have a first and a second to reconvene from executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we are back in our wonderful Finance Committee meeting. Item C, T7738, contract with Portage County Regional Planning for the CDBG 2025-2026. Mr. Amalia.
Thank you. Before you tonight is a contract between the Regional Planning Commission of Portage County and ourselves. As a reminder, the city of Streetsboro does not directly receive the CDBG dollars. That is done vis-a-vis the county. We never actually see the money, and this way the county just kind of manages it for us for a small percentage, and then we can continue to offer our services to low, moderate income individuals.
Perfect. Thank you. Any questions?
There's no further discussion. I'll make a motion to move this to tonight's full council.
Second.
First and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that item has been moved to tonight's council meeting.
Thank you.
All right, item D, T7739, contract with Ubiquity, I think I said that correctly, for street cameras and Dell server, Mr. Matt Kaufman.
Thank you. Good evening. The legislation before you is for quite a few things, actually. We currently have cameras at all of our major intersections. They were put in about 6 years ago, roughly. We've had a lot of issues with those cameras. So part of this is updated cameras to replace those ones. And then there's always been kind of a phase 2 to that project whenever those cameras were installed to give us the ability to store the footage from those cameras. So that's the other portion of this is a server to be able to record the cameras at those 6 intersections and allow the officers the ability to review that as needed.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. If you don't mind staying up there for a second, just in case anybody has
Certainly.
any questions for you about it. Ms. McDaniel?
Thank you, Mr. Hannon. Thanks, Mr. Kaufman. I know we spoke earlier, and I appreciate your answers, but I came up with a couple more questions I wanted to ask. One was because I was curious about if we can separate the server and the camera purchase. You had said earlier the server purchase is time sensitive, right? Because of the
Correct,
quote?
yes.
Okay.
We could, if council wishes, we could separate those out and have them as 2 separate pieces of legislation.
Well, and I was thinking as a follow-up to that, do the cameras we have now, they won't work with the new server?
Well, the issue is with the ones that we have right now, the way that they are configured to get the footage back to the police department, that's where we have the issues, and I've troubleshot that for the past year. I've got it, for the most part, working, but the radios that put the traffic, the camera traffic back to the police department are all Ubiquity radios, so Ubiquity works best with Ubiquity. That's why I was recommending that we upgrade to the Ubiquity cameras versus the ones that are currently installed.
Okay. And another question I have, so for the past 6 years, and correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't been able to record anything.
That's correct.
The cameras are just a real-time view if they're
That's
showing
correct.
up in dispatch.
That's correct. We have some monitors at dispatch that the cameras are supposed to be on. When they work, dispatch is able to view them in real time and see what's going on at the intersections.
Okay. These cameras and this server will be able to record and remember at
That's
least for a
correct.
while.
Yes.
And in this cover letter, it talks about the retention policy, so how long we'd keep that data.
Correct.
Can you tell me a little bit more about our retention policy or what that's going to look like, how long we're gonna hold on to this footage?
Certainly. Right now, we don't have one because we didn't have a server, but in discussions with the police chief and the lieutenants, they were recommending 30 days retention just to be overwritten automatically after that 30 days. Because at that point, the officers would have plenty, they would know if they need to access that footage well within that 30-day time frame to investigate any accidents or anything along those lines, because that's the main point of these cameras is protection.
The main point is protection for like accidents.
Correct, yes. Makes it a lot easier to investigate for the officers.
Are there gonna be any parameters as far as limits to what this footage can be used for? I mean, I see a benefit to watching traffic accidents and other things that might be useful. But are we gonna put a limit on how the footage can be used? Is that something that comes into the retention policy? Because what couldn't we use it for?
As far as I know, it's for investigation purposes. I mean, there is no, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything else that we would use it for. But you know as well as I do, when you have a traffic accident, it's always somebody's word against somebody's word.
Sure.
Well, I had the green light. Well, no, you didn't. And now, this is going to be proof positive. Who had the arrow? Who had the green light? And, you know, that was a question that we had. If you could just imagine, we have, I think, at least 32 heads in the city, okay? And there's probably 15 or 18 control intersections. The amount of information that is stored just in one day. And I'm not a computer geek, but it's gotta be a tetrahedral blue draw or something. You know, it's just an enormous amount of data that they have, and that's why, 30 days, if we have an accident, these guys will be able to go back to the station, be able to take that snippet of that accident, and then they can save that individually.
Right.
But the other stuff will just be written over. And as long as we have it covered in our retention period, people can't come back and say, well, you just threw that away. No, our retention schedule is, we retain, this is primarily for, traffic investigation, it's not for anything else. And, that way, after 30 days, it can be automatically written over and we're fine. We're covered because it is in our policy for retention.
Is that what the retention policy is, 30 days?
Well, that's what we're-
There's different ones. For different things, there's different retention policies. That was just on looking at the storage, how much we were gonna need. 30 days was a good number without going astronomical on the server size.
Gotcha.
That brings me to another question. I feel like 30 days is a pretty long time. If we made it a little bit shorter, that benefits us as far as storage on the server, doesn't it? Like if we say 14 days. I mean, if you're in an accident or having an issue, don't you think in a couple weeks? Yeah, I don't know if we need 30 days because that's going to take up memory.
It does. And we went back and forth. We actually started with 2 weeks exactly like
Okay.
you said, because at first the police chief said, well, the shorter the better. But
Right.
then we were like, well, if they need something, we can make it out a little bit more in line with a lot of our other retention policies, which are usually about 30 days.
Well, I won't belabor much more. I guess the points I'd just like to say for the record, there's benefits and risks to surveillance. We know that. Shorter the better would be my vote if we can. I think it would benefit us on the server side too, so we don't get to a point where we have to upgrade our server now for another big expenditure, and we're kind of managing two things, it sounds like, with purchasing this server now. I would like to confirm, who can access this footage? Just our police department, or can
Just
any
our police
outside
department.
third party,
No,
anybody
these will be
tap into
public
it?
records. These will be accessible by public records requests. Anybody can access it.
Okay.
Correct, but for live footage and all that, that's just our police department. And then, like Mr. Ring said, they are available via public record requests
Until
within
they
that
don't
30-day
Within the
timeframe.
retention period.
Correct.
Public can access them.
That is correct.
That makes me a little nervous. So I guess I'd like a little more time to think about the cameras myself. Server makes total sense. I just want to be very cautious and make sure we cover all our bases really well, because there's benefit, but there's a lot of risk. And I think about all of us here, we put this infrastructure in place, but then if we're not here, you can add on, you can manipulate, you can abuse. We wouldn't do that, but someone else might in the future. So I just want to be really, really cautious before we proceed. So I would just like to say that. I don't know what anyone else thinks, but those are my thoughts on it.
Mr. Ring had his hand up first, and I'll call on.
I was
Jim.
gonna just bring up the public records
Okay.
portion of it, so I'm good. Thank you.
Ms. Wagner?
Are these gonna be similar to flock cameras?
To what?
Flock cameras?
Oh.
No, those are license plate reading cameras, and as far as I know, this
That's correct.
has no capability to read the license plates.
Yes, and for the record, we actually, Ms. McDaniel and I had a discussion earlier this evening where she asked that specific question about being able to read the license plates. There is an addition that we could add to these if we so desired, but that would be something, if that desire was raised, that we would bring back to council. The cameras as they are not license plate reader cameras.
Yeah, that's just a simple software upgrade, though, to
Correct.
do that. So, again, that's I think what she's talking about with dangers in the future of them being used for much more than just investigatory tools. Sorry, where now we're putting facial recognition on them and license plate readers on them and using them for Big Brother type things, which is what I think we want to avoid.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with using them for how we're saying we're going to use them. I think it's great. It's a tool that the police probably need, make it a lot easier for them to do their reports and issue their citations, I would imagine. But I share the concerns with you, because I don't like Big Brother State either. I don't see why we would need to split what it would help to split the cameras out, though, because if we get the server, we can start recording anyway, can't we?
That's
So
correct, yes.
Even with the cameras we have, so that doesn't
That's a
really
good point.
change anything.
I just don't like to rush things if we don't have to. I could see the
Sure.
server is time sensitive with the quote. The cameras, Mr. Kaufman said, aren't. I like time to think about things, but that's a good point. That's fair.
But flocks help a lot, believe it or not. They help a lot when trying to find missing persons, warrants, stolen vehicles. They're so nice.
I can say that I've been there at dispatch when there's been a call for a crash, or one time there was a truck on fire right up here on 480 at Frost, and my dispatchers, they've gotten pretty good because those cameras, they're pan tilt zoom. They, as soon as they start paging it out to the fire department, they get on there. So if they have eyes on and they can see what's going on, so.
Well, yeah, because we've been able to help Streetsboro when they call us and we're telling them they had, I think, a theft or something come through. I mean, it was whipping through our area, but ended up going down 82. We were able to tell them which cameras they were hitting through, so they were able to find where they were. We called the agency ahead to be able to get them, and we found someone missing out of California with kids. I mean, it's a helpful tool. That's why I was just curious if we were gonna. A lot of agencies have it. I just didn't know if you were doing all of this upgrade, if you were gonna do that part too. That's all I was asking. So it's a good tool to have.
Yeah, I agree with what everybody's kind of been saying. I mean, a couple years ago, I toured the police station, and to my surprise, I didn't know that they had those cameras set up. So it was kind of cool to sit there and watch how they see that in real time, and the fact that the dispatchers can just see that there's an accident, they already have it dispatched, which obviously in those situations, moments matter. So that was kind of cool. But I did see that, like what you were talking about, how some of the cameras don't work. And I kind of asked that question. And that was a couple years ago. So obviously it's nice to see that, we're making those upgrades so then that technology works. I just think it's important to know if, a newspaper picks this up or people are watching, that it's clear that the cameras aren't being used for, a bad purpose. They're not going to ticket somebody or
Correct.
something like that. It's more so for the person's or people's benefit. If there is an accident at an intersection, they can pull that footage and help determine who's at fault. And the benefit that it helps our dispatchers with in situations like that. So I saw the mayor had his hand up.
Yeah, these guys have done a lot of research in these cameras and the time and the clearness and conciseness of them. And, I would ask council to move it forward. And to your point, your point, Ms. McDaniel, you're worried about something in the future, okay? And if the makeup of that council in the future is such that they want to do something different, isn't it their right to do that instead of us trying to legislate something now to, stop something in the future? Wouldn't it be up to that particular council at that time to decide how they're going to use them? If we have the capability in the future to do something different with them, instead of, taking that ability to vote or ability to change from them and putting it on us?
Oh, I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm just encouraging caution, wisdom, and long-term thinking. I'm not saying we legislate anything that limits anyone in the future, but this is limitless tech that we're installing, and I think it warrants being very careful when we're installing and what our policies are, and this council has that responsibility for now with the future in mind. So I'm not suggesting we legislate a limit on the future, but I think there are privacy and safety concerns that both have benefits and risks here, and it's something that we shouldn't just go full bore without taking some time to think if we can. If we can't, we can't, but I think we maybe can. So, again, just my thoughts.
It is on for emergency with the Dell quotes.
Well, because of the quotes, and here's what I would suggest. I don't mind passing this as a package tonight because, again, if we pass the server, those other cameras can still record. What I would suggest, though, is that maybe we later gather to review the policies for the use of them, the retention policies and those types of things.
We'll be more than happy once we get the retention policy and the things written, and that way, then it would be law that we can only use it for traffic investigations, and we can do it for that. And if someone in the future wants to change that, then they will have to do it legislatively. But we could definitely do something now, because I'm definitely not in favor of watching someone drive down the road.
Sure.
But knowing how many accidents that we have and how many times I've been to an accident and hear, no, it wasn't my fault. And my stepdaughter was involved in an accident, and I wish that they would have had a camera there that recorded this guy that hit her. Oh, she pulled in front of me. And of course, she went to Portage County Court, and he went to Portage County Court. Oh, there's not enough evidence. But if we would have had video evidence, the guy would have been convicted.
Yeah.
Because it was definitely a road rage incident.
Well, I think if we're able to get together and have clear legislation like you both have suggested, that limits, for now, and like you said, future councils, future administrations can change it, that would make me more comfortable, because you can understand. I think everybody can understand the risk-benefit here.
What we have discussed is the way that they're going to be used until we can get the legislation in place, and then we can tweak the legislation, even more. But that's what we wanted to use them for, was to help us, you never know what you're gonna see.
Oh, I have one more question. If an outside jurisdiction would want it, well, it's public record while it's being retained, so anybody can get it. Nobody has to even request it. They can just access it.
No, you have to request. You have to put a
request it.
public
Yes.
records
You have
request.
to put a public record.
And you have to pay for it. You have to
Okay.
pay for it.
And now, we can charge.
Okay.
For, especially like if YouTube wants it, or those places there, because getting the video out now, it's not just a matter of going and looking at a tape and running it off. There's usually a couple hours that Herman has involved.
Yeah, and he has to take into account, all the different privacy.
He has to redact and,
He
yeah.
has to redact, in some cases, voice.
So there's definitely a process involved, and I was, the average Joe, they may have to pay, but definitely the commercial entities, especially if they want more. I mean, you guys have all seen the video of our police officer on TV. When he pulled, what did he pull him over for? What was it?
Which one?
Yeah, we've had a couple that have been shown quite often, and
Live PD,
with the, huh?
on Live PD, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, was it Live PD?
Yeah.
Yeah, with Live PD, they were, I want them back. So I would ask the council to pass this through tonight so that we can, there is
This is just for the equipment. This is just for the equipment. The policies we can
Okay.
discuss and put into place probably before the equipment's even installed. So.
Super. That would be ideal. Okay,
Yeah,
thank
I'm
you.
more than happy to work with the mayor and law department to get our policy together, and then we'll present it to council
Perfect.
from there.
That's good. Thank you.
So I just have one follow-up question for you, Mr. Kaufman. I know you mentioned that you've troubleshot a lot of the issues. This is going to fix it 100%. Like
It is.
all the cameras are going to work. Is it just like the radios? Wait, is it too weak right now? Is that why some of the cameras don't work?
Yes and no. So originally, when this was designed, there was supposed to be a fiber backbone
Right.
that went to every intersection and then went back to the police department. I don't recall who was funding that. I believe it was the state of Ohio, but budgetary reasons, they said, nope, we can't do the fiber, and we fell back to these radio solution. They put the best ones in at the time, but they're just not strong enough, not pointed properly. There's a lot of things, and we've also put in, to make the radios themselves work better, we've put in some dedicated Time Warner drops at a couple of the intersections. So that way, instead of intersection to intersection to intersection, going all the way back to the police department, now we might only have 3 intersections in a pod, and then those are VPN back to the police department.
Okay.
So it works a lot better than what it was whenever it was installed.
Perfect. Yeah, and then how long do these last for?
The radios are actually very inexpensive, but the general shelf life on those is 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
But the radios are about 120 a piece.
What about
So
the
they're
cameras? Are we
the
looking at-
cameras.
Because the ones you say in here are about 10 years old.
Correct.
Is that some? Obviously, in 10 years, we'll have to.
That's about a normal life.
Okay. Perfect. Just curious. Thank you. I appreciate the time tonight. Any questions further from the rest of City Council or administration?
If there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion to move this to tonight's full council.
Second.
First and second to move to tonight's full council. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. That is moved.
Thank you very much.
Item C, T7740, amend policies and procedures manual and employee handbook regarding travel expenses. Ms. Lockhart Reese.
Good evening. This is an ordinance that we are looking to increase our travel allowance for our employees when they go out for travel. $35 for a day trip and $65 for an overnight trip. Current policy is $35 for an overnight trip.
This is for meals.
Yes, just for meals. And we have this is just to increase the rate. All other policy and procedures stay in place. No alcohol, no tips, no sales tax can be reimbursed.
Yeah, I mean, with the prices of even fast food nowadays, $35 is like lunch at McDonald's for one person, so.
Isn't there a rate set by the state of Ohio? Isn't it like $80 a day? Is that what it's going up
The
to?
standard rate for the state of Ohio is $68. But the mayor and Matt Miller decided that it should be 65. No, we're within reason.
$3.
What, have you thought, like, because
No more steak.
that's, so $65 is the standard rate for all of Ohio, correct?
$68
Is
the standard
68.
rate for Ohio.
But have you thought about making any determination on different cities? So the reason I ask is because in my job, we send coaches to different places, and if they go to Columbus, it's more, they get a bigger allowance because it's a bigger city, it's more expensive. I didn't know if that was a consideration or not.
We considered it, but we landed on 65.
Okay.
Yeah, my bank does the same thing when I travel. If I go to New York City,
Yeah.
my per diem's three times as much as if I go to Charlotte, North
But like,
Carolina.
I
I mean,
remember you went to Chicago. Like, so you're getting $65 a day, but like, what if,
No, we got $35.
or 35, sorry. Well, I'm saying, so in this updated policy, you get 65. I just figured there may be a consideration to update that. I don't know. Mr. Matt Miller?
That takes a lot to police
Yeah.
Yeah. I get
on my end with invoicing, processing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So if I gotta figure out if you're in the suburb of Chicago or you in downtown Chicago, that's a lot of policing. And so we just figure if we increase it, we're almost doubling it and get it up to 65 a day.
Right.
And then we're also increasing the lunch for guys who go on day trips. I know a lot of officers do day trips and things like that. We're giving them a little bit more money.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I know
I'd
sometimes,
rather
like,
just
if you go
standardize it.
to, like, I know the problem we have at the school is that we send people to conferences and stuff, and then they're provided meals. So then we kind of differentiate between those, because are we really gonna pay you for lunch if you're being provided lunch? So,
And I believe
That's in our current
Yeah, it's
policy.
in
If
our
you get
policy.
provided lunch, you don't
Yeah.
get to get reimbursed.
right. I appreciate the response. Is there any questions from city council? Mr. Lombardo?
Thank you. No, I like this. I think if the mayor and Mr. Miller feel that this is an appropriate number for your employees, I support this 100%. So that's all I have to say.
And just a note, we don't have a lot of travel.
Right.
So
Is there a reason why you came to 65 versus 68? What's the difference in the $3? Just to have like a $5 increment, or?
I don't. That was a few months ago. Because and we're going to get, it's coming up on the agenda items, with the P card policy. We went live with the P cards, or we approved to go with the P cards back in beginning of fourth quarter. And so we started talking together, myself, the mayor, David, Shauna, Missy, and we started saying, hey, with these P cards, we need to start looking at different policies, start shoring everything up. And so we came across the meal allowance, and we're like, man, this is really low. And so that's why we're changing that in this policy, is where the meal allowance sits. And then in a few minutes, we're going to talk about the P card policy. So that's kind of was the driving force, and we decided just do it all at once. Give our employees a little bit more money to eat. And
So, on that note, have you thought about, just so you don't ever have to revisit this, or, in 10 years from now, whenever this was set, but, you're looking at it now, $35 was probably set a long time ago. Have you thought about just tying it to whatever this, just make it vague and say, whatever state you're going to, their minimum. So if someone goes to Chicago, whatever Illinois, whatever their rate is, whatever Ohio's is, whatever California's is. So that way you don't even have to think about it. And then in the future, it never gets overlooked.
I would rather council have that ability to make that decision. The price of eggs keeps going up, and butter and all that other stuff, then we'll revisit it. But I think that would be better for here and now. We feel that that's a good number.
Okay.
And then if food inflation keeps happening, we'll say, hey, we still don't have enough money for these guys, for our people to eat. Then
Right.
we'll just bring it back to council, and you guys can make, have that ability to make that decision.
$35 for dinner, nobody's gonna starve.
I get it. But when you're paying for an entire day, if you're in New York City, it's probably expensive. So. Huh? Yeah. All right. Any other questions? No.
No further questions. I'll make a motion to move this to tonight's full council.
Second.
thank
I have a first and a second to move to tonight's full council. All in favor?
you.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that is moved. Item F, T7741, authorize appropriation of property related to the State Route 303 and Diagonal Road project. Doesn't have a name next to it, so I'll just call on Mr. Checkeye. Should just pick somebody.
Pick Greg.
Greg, you want to talk about 303?
Oh, yeah.
Let me take a stab at this.
It's funny.
Just like previous projects such as State Route 43 and 14, we need to acquire some property. We went into negotiations with this property owner, and they have stalled at this point, so we'd like to move forward with the appropriation.
Is it just one property?
Yes.
Any questions on that?
There's no further discussion. I'll make a motion to move this to tonight's full council.
Second.
First and a second to move to tonight's full council. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that item has been moved. Item G, T7742, Purchasing Card Administrative Policy, Mr. Matt Miller.
Mr. Hannon, as was referenced, with the purchasing card system, us getting away from our credit cards and going into a department purchasing card system, fourth quarter last year, we felt it was a good idea to come up with a policy manual. New operations mean new procedures. And so we wanted to bring this to council as a first read because it's obviously a lot of different considerations and we can collaborate if there's anything that council noticed in the policy that we could change and talk through and we could iron out in reads 2 and 3. And that is why we just put it for first read tonight. And any questions on this policy? A lot of this kind of helps us with the payment net portal that Chase uses, kind of giving some of the criteria and responsibilities of departments as they have their own. Some departments have their own purchasing card. We just felt it was a good idea to, give some guidelines, so to speak.
Any questions on this item? This is
There's
going-
no further discussion. I'll make a motion to move this to tonight's full council.
Second.
First and a second to move to tonight's full council. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that has been moved and is on for first read. Item H, T7743, 2025 Annual Appropriations Number 2. Mr. Matt Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Hannon. This is just our second appropriations. I am going to ask if council could make a motion to include Exhibit B. This is something that I also included an email with this. Just kind of something that we're on the tail end of, or I should say the receiving end of, in regards to our SAFER grant. So I need to move some additional funds from the 101 fund to the 207 fund. And then for our Exhibit A, the main items on Exhibit A are just budget reaction to the good attendance cash out. We don't budget for that. We kind of wait for people to utilize that policy. In addition, we moved some budget for contractual services, for some upcoming bids that we'll be receiving for outside mowing. And then the third major item is we had an accident on Market Square where somebody hit one of our traffic boxes. And regardless, we're still working with insurance, but we still have to get the box repaired. And those are not cheap at about $89,000. So we needed to move some money in there, but that is offset by the hopeful revenue that it is fully reimbursed by the person's insurance company.
I was gonna say, how many, geez, what are people doing? Is it because they're black and I can't see them? Well, maybe we should paint them bright orange.
Build a.
Well, maybe it's the skins that are
Put a pillar in front of
Put
it.
concrete pillars.
distracting them, huh? Yeah.
Put concrete pillars around them. Is it cheaper to put concrete pillars around these things?
Probably.
Yeah.
Maybe the traffic cameras will get the video. We can start figuring out why they're driving towards them.
Insurance company covered it.
So so my request is to
Yeah, I'll make
Please
a,
also add B.
I'll make a motion to attach Exhibit B to the legislation.
Second that.
I have a first and a second to add Exhibit B to T7743. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that has been added. Any additional information or questions from
Happy to
council?
answer any questions.
If no further discussion, I'll make a motion to move this to tonight's full council. As
Second.
amended.
I have a first and a second to send to full council as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that has been moved. Item 8, citizens' comments.
Wait a minute.
Seeing none,
Hold
item,
on. Don't we have to, Missy, aren't we adding in?
It's on council.
It's on council.
It's on council?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Just want to make sure. Never mind.
I'm sure Mr. Ring will let us discuss in full council. What do you think?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, there it is right there.
Item 9, announcements. A regular council will immediately follow this and entertain a motion to
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned.
Yep.
It got very hot in this room for some reason,
I
didn't
think
it?
it's warm too, actually.
Yeah. When I came back, it was
That's
cold.
because you got aggressive over $3, man.
Trying to help you guys out. You
You
know?
gotta get to number 1 instead of number 3.
We're not going to discuss this all.
It's only $3, man. I don't know.
Just 'cause it's
Sure, it'll be an hour of discussion.
Just trying to help them out when they're traveling, you know?
For the betterment, right? For the people by.
I don't know. I guess I didn't think about that.
Next time when you guys go out on a trip and it's $68 for food, think of me, all right?
There for $3.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, call him.
Give me the $3. Yeah, right. No.
Ready?
Reporter.
All right, I'd like to call this regular council meeting of Monday, February 24th to order. Bridget, please call roll.
Mr. Ring,
Here.
Mr. Mishniak, Mr. Hannon,
Here.
Mr. Lombardo,
Here.
Ms. Wegner,
Here.
Mrs. McDaniel,
Present.
Ms. Glenn.
here.
Motion to excuse Mr. Mishniak.
Second.
A first and second to excuse Mr. Mishniak. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, he is excused.
John was the second, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, item 3, disposition of minutes. There are none. Item 4, citizens' comments. Seeing none. Item 5, reports, communications from departments, boards, and commissions. Chief, tell us, it's been pretty busy, hasn't it?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we're on pace, just 1 month, January, second busiest we've had. In 2022, we were at 301 calls for the month. We're at 297 for January, so it's been a very busy month, an extremely busy month. Everybody's received the activity report that Captain Grimm puts out, okay? And what's alarming is the back-to-back calls. 30% of the time, one squad goes out and before it's in service. And there's a temporary glitch at the hospital. We had a squad there for 4 hours waiting for turnaround. And that affects the whole county, and it's just for a couple of days. But that affects us because we don't have access to that EMS squad. So that was one of the problems we had during the pandemic. Squads weren't clearing because the hospital didn't know where to put the people. There were more people than beds in the ER. Captain Grimm and Scott Wilson, Fire Prevention, started their severe weather seminars. Mentioned that last year. So they had a seminar today at the Senior Center about upcoming weather, things you can do, devices you can have to hear about severe weather. And they have another one in the spring with a homeowners association. So hopefully we'll get some more. We were in the water ice rescue last week, and tomorrow, the next 3 days, we'll have hazmat, mop and glow classes, refresher classes. And just see what is up there. And that's about it. Short and sweet, huh?
Very good, thank you. Lieutenant, anything?
I do not have anything.
All right. Mr. Meidinger?
Started to put our seasonal employment notifications out for parks. Well,
I think it's Matt Miller.
Mr. Miller. One of the Millers.
Apologies.
Miller twins. There we go. Put our seasonal employment out, our information for parks, grounds, summer camp, and splash pad attendants. Summer camp information should be coming out in the next program guide. All the program guide information is due, I think, in the middle of the month, with being mailed out to residents in April. So we should hit all those timelines and deadlines, so on and so forth. And yeah, I think that's kind of it. Staying
go.
busy.
Thank you. Patrick, anything?
Good evening. Very recently, there was I don't think I'm being facetious when I say a dumpster fire in town, where it was caused by a lithium-ion battery. One of our manufacturers in town, Permco on Frost Road, is in the process of developing a new fire suppression technology for that, and they were kind enough to share some of that material with our fire department. And I just thought it was a very neat example of our business community taking care of our broader community at large when they saw something in the paper, and we're very glad to have some people that are doing that kind of work here.
Yeah.
I want to thank Patrick for making the connection. He always makes connections. If there's a place that needs to be burned down, he gives me a call or things like that. But we've had this interest for quite a while. They're working on something. We'd call them, they called me, and we go back and forth. And he kind of put us together and spoke to the gentleman, very friendly guy. And he's working on technology. And we're his hometown heroes. We have some extinguishers. So I want to thank Mr. Amalia for making that connection.
He is now also a resident of ours, so there's
Nice.
that.
Good. Thank you. Mr. Chaskowski, anything from planning?
I do have just a few updates. I wanted to thank all of council for their cards, notes, flexibility, and empathy as it relates to the recent passing of my father. It is very much appreciated. So thank you very much for that. We in the planning department just started drafting solar regulations so that we will have something to the law department that's vetted and back through planning commission and to council with enough time to provide us feedback prior to the moratorium coming up. So I just wanted to let you know that we had started that effort in earnest. We have also been back and forth with the consultant working on the sign code update a few times now, discussing first drafts with the goal of getting it to the planning commission likely in the next month or two, and then to council thereafter. Tomorrow is my 12-year anniversary here at the city, so I wanted to thank you, council. Looking forward to hopefully another 12 years of hard work, but wanted to mention that. I don't know how many people pay attention or mention it to council, so I did want to mention that. I feel pretty accomplished and thankful and grateful for the time I've had here at the city. And then I don't normally, I try not to miss council meetings, but it's looking like for personal reasons, I won't be at the meeting on March 10th. So I just wanted to mention it to council because I was aware of it. If there is anything that you have any questions of me relative to planning and zoning related matters, please don't hesitate to reach out. But just wanted to let everybody know while I was aware. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, John, and thank you for your 12 years of service. So we've
Appreciate it.
You've helped do a lot for the city, that's for sure. Mr. Check Guy?
Real quick, City Hall's going well. Also trying to get a couple other projects started for the spring, most importantly Arrowhead. Trails water main. So, and we may have another water main coming up that service wants done, maybe in need. So more to come on that. That's it.
Very good. Mr. Miller?
I have nothing.
I'm good as well. Thank you.
Anything from law, Mr. Knott?
Just working on cases and matters that I've gotten for me.
Very good. All right. Moving on to item 6, introduction of legislation containing statements of emergency. Before we do all that, we need to make an amendment to T7744, so I'm going to move down to that. There are two sections that had just clerical updates. So I'd like to entertain a motion to update the title section to remove the word "and" in the first sentence. It's right there, isn't it? Oh, no, that's 38.
44?
Yeah. Yeah, so the original read an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract. So just remove the word "and." And then in section 2, after the word Dynegy Energy LLC, I'd like to insert the word "for," F-O-R, and then the amount. So again, just two clerical updates, but I'll entertain a motion to make those updates.
So moved. Second.
The first by Ms. McDaniel and a second by Mr. Hannah to update that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that is updated. Okay. Perfect.
Mr. Ring, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for T7738, T7739, T7740, T7741, T7743, and T7744.
Do I have a second?
Second.
First, Mr. Hannon, second, Ms. Glenn, to suspend the rules for 3 readings on those stated legislations. Bridget, please call roll.
Mr. Hannon?
Yes.
Ms. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes. The rules have been suspended. All right, moving on to item A. T7738, contract with Portage County Regional Planning for CDBG 2526. Bridget, please read by title.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Portage County Regional Planning Commission to administer the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, funds for program year 2025-26 and declaring an emergency to ensure that citizens can timely access new programming.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
We have a first and second to adopt. Bridget, please call roll.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Mr. Hannon?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner? Yes. Ms. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes. T7738 now becomes ordinance 2025-22. All right, item B, T7739, contract with Ubiquity for street cameras and Dell server. Bridget, please read by title.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract without competitive bidding with Dell Inc. and Ubiquity Inc. for purchase of a Dell server and monitors and Ubiquity cameras and related accessories for the city's intersection camera network and declaring an emergency in order to respond to time-sensitive proposal.
Motion to adopt.
Second?
We have a first and second to adopt. Bridget, please call roll.
Mr. Hannon?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes. T7739 now becomes ordinance 2025-23. All right, item C, T7740, amend policies and procedures manual and employee handbook regarding travel expenses. Bridget, please read by title.
An ordinance amending the Streetsboro Policies and Procedures Manual and Employee Handbook to provide a $35 per diem for meals during a same-day trip and a $65 per diem for an overnight trip and declaring an emergency in order to enact said per diems immediately for use by city employees.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
First and second to adopt. Bridget, please call roll.
Ms. Glenn?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes. T 7740 now becomes ordinance 2025-24. Item D, T 7741, resolution to appropriate property for State Route 303 Diagonal Road Project. Bridget, please read by title.
A resolution declaring the necessity of and intention to appropriate certain interests in real property necessary for the improvement of State Route 303 and Diagonal Road in the city of Streetsboro, authorizing the filing of petitions for appropriation and declaring an emergency to permit timely commencement of the project.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
For first and second to adopt. Bridget, please call roll.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Ms. Glenn?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes. T 7741 now becomes ordinance 2025-25. All right, item E, T 7743, amend annual appropriations as amended. Bridget, please read by title.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 2024-164, the 2025 annual appropriations ordinance, number 2.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
First and second to adopt. Bridget, please call roll.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Ms. Glenn?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes. T 7743 now becomes ordinance 2025-26. All right, item T 7744, authorized contract with Dynegy Energy Services for an electric aggregation services. Before we read, does anybody have any discussion on this? 'Cause I know it's been last minute.
I do want to point out, like on the fourth whereas down here, this should say at a price not to exceed .91, and for a period of, this says 12 months. Missy, are we doing 13 months or 12?
The rate that was given to us, that was 12 months, correct? And then the new rate that was cheaper was 13 months.
Right, so
what-
we're going for the 13, right? Correct?
If it's cheaper, and I believe he didn't put a time, a term in there, correct?
It says.
David?
It
Right.
says 12 months here in the fourth whereas down. It says not, price not to exceed .86, which is the old number, for a
Yeah.
period of 12 months.
Can we amend that, please?
Yep. Because we have 9-1 down in section 2, we just didn't amend it up there, so yeah, I'll entertain a motion to amend the fourth whereas down to,
No, it shouldn't be changed.
yeah, this needs to be.
Since this council adopted ordinance which approved the price not to exceed 86 for a period of 12 months. That refers back to the last
weather
legislation.
Okay, well, where do we put the 13 months then? Doesn't that need to be somewhere?
I think the top of it doesn't have a term.
So it should be up top?
I don't think we don't even need a term.
So we can do whatever we want? Or you
Well,
can?
if we get a cheaper rate for 14 months, then I
That's
think
better
that
if we
might
can do
be,
it that
yeah,
way.
I'd
Okay.
prefer not to put a term in there.
Okay.
That shouldn't change.
I see.
Well, I have a little issue with that because I don't want you coming back and saying, well, they had a great term for 36 months, because I
promise
don't
I
want to
won't
lock
do
in
that.
for 36 months, so,
I would be hesitant to lock it at 14 months.
yeah, I don't really, 13's giving me a little bit of a
Yeah,
a
I agree with you.
heartache, heartburn turd, yeah. Okay, so, let me just read it through, I want to make sure that it's. So, where is this council's adopted electric? Whereas due to weather, electricity prices have risen since this that's saying, since we approved the price of 86, it's gone up, so now we need to approve higher. Okay, yeah, so everything's good in that.
So we don't want to put a term in there, like not to exceed 13
No,
months?
because if
or
she
what?
says
Okay.
if 14 is substantially cheaper, okay, I guess, but
And they haven't come back cheaper. The
I would-
13 month
Right,
was
right.
the cheapest so far.
I mean, if you feel more comfortable putting one, I'm fine with it, but I trust Missy and Tom to do the right thing, so.
Agreed, I just don't know if we do, I was just asking for technical purposes. It's
No,
not that
I
I
don't
don't
think
trust Missy, I do.
As long as she doesn't go above the rate stated, then we don't need the timeframe.
Yeah. And again, that rate is the Ohio Edison rate, the winter rate, correct? So it is the same rate? Tom, yes?
9.1 is what we're estimating, the Ohio Edison rate, right? So we really don't want to go over that.
No.
Well, we definitely don't, so.
We would save in the summer, but we really don't. So we're hoping to get, with the warmer weather this week, a little better pricing.
And the summer rates is now.
Tom, can you come
10
up to the mic just so we can have it on record? Sorry.
So it's 10.1, the summer rate is 10.1 right now, is that correct, Tom? June, July, August rate?
We're estimating 10.4.
10.4?
This summer.
Okay.
So that would be about a 14% savings, but it's only 3 months, so we really need to draw a line in the sand somewhere, and I think 9.1 makes the most sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's the highest, if we still have a couple days to lock, right? So
Yeah.
if you see it if at any point you see it pop down, yeah.
Exactly. The last 2 weeks have been the worst. The weather's been so cold and a lot of demand, so we just did not get an opportunity that we were hoping for.
Yeah.
And what's the final day to lock? What's our final day to lock?
They're asking by the end of the month.
Friday.
So
Is
that would be
Friday's
Friday.
That is it, though? That's the absolute last date?
So letters need to go out 45 days in advance, and we need to docket the letter 10 days in advance, so that's 55 days before May 1st. So you're really looking at that first, second day of March, and that's a weekend.
It's a weekend, okay.
So we're really looking at Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay. Yep. Bridget, please read by title.
Thank you.
Thank you, both of
very
you.
much for
Thank
your
you.
time.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Dynegy Energy Services East LLC, DBA Dynegy Energy Services LLC, for an energy aggregation program plan of operation and governance pursuant to Section 4928.20 of the Ohio Revised Code for a cost not to exceed .091 kilowatt hour and declaring an emergency to expedite the matter.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
First and second to adopt. Bridget, please read by title. Or please call roll. You just read by title. Sorry.
I read it again.
Yeah, no.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Ms. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner? Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes, T7744 now becomes ordinance 2025-27. All right, moving on to first reading. We have T7742, purchasing card administrative policy. Bridget, please read by title.
An ordinance approving a purchasing card administrative policy.
Nice and short. All right, items for second reading, T7736, enact section 151.03 of Title V relating to conduct of city-sponsored festivals, events, sponsorships, and concession agreements. And I said conduct, but conduct. Can you please read by title?
Sure. An ordinance enacting new section 151.03 of Title V, Part 1 Administrative Code of the Codified Ordinances relating to conduct of city-sponsored festivals and events and associated sponsorships and concessions agreements.
Thank you. All right, item 9, moving on to third reading. T7726, CRA agreement with Winking Lizard. Bridget, please read by title.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a community reinvestment area agreement with Winking Lizard, Inc., and declaring an emergency in order to expedite the effective date of the agreement.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
I have a first and second to adopt. Bridget, please call roll.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Ms. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes, T7726 now becomes ordinance 2025-28. All right, T7728, dedicate Northwest Perimeter Road, City Square, Rich Tacklet Way. Bridget, please read by title.
An ordinance dedicating in the honor of Rich Tacklet the northwest perimeter road around the square by naming it Rich Tacklet Way.
Motion to adopt?
Second?
Okay, first and second to adopt. Please call roll.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes?
Ms. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes. T7728 now becomes ordinance 2025-29. T7729, dedicate northeast perimeter road, City Square, Chuck Casisco Way. Bridget, please read by title.
An ordinance dedicating in the honor of Chuck Casisco the northeast perimeter road around the square by naming it Chuck Casisco Way.
Motion to adopt?
Second?
I have a first and second to adopt. Please call roll.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes. T7729 now becomes ordinance 2025-30. All right, T7730, dedicate ball fields at City Park, the Chuck Casisco Ball Fields. Is that the name we're sticking with? I know we were had kicked around anything else.
From anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with Chuck Casisco Fields and just getting rid of the ball. I mean, I don't really, doesn't matter to me.
I'm okay with Chuck Casisco Fields. If that's what you want, if you want.
I don't know, I just ball fields sounds a little weird to me without like a base or a soft in front of it, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I'm good with Chuck Casisco Fields.
is everybody good
Chuck
with that?
Casisco Field Complex? Is that too
No,
big? Is that too long?
That's too,
Too long?
well, there's stuff that's already named up there.
Yeah, Gary Huber Field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's a,
So if we're naming the whole thing, it's
yeah, if we name the whole thing,
like a complex, and then the ball fields is, if we're naming fields, and like you said, one's already Gary Huber Field, I don't know if that's
yeah,
confusing.
that
or-
might be confusing too, if we just say, because like we have Gary Huber Field, right?
Field 7.
Field 7's Gary Huber, or Huber Field. So if we just name this Chuck Casisco Fields, and then that one's called Huber Field, maybe that might be confusing to some people. Should there be a complex, you know,
It could be.
Athletic
Chuck Casisco
complex.
Baseball complex. I mean, the whole.
It's
But then
softball's up
you're-
there too,
Yeah,
so.
then you're singling
Yeah.
out baseball versus softball. Athletic complex. I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
Up to you guys, man.
Like, that kind of puts the soccer field in
That's
there
why I
too,
brought it
I
up a
guess.
couple
but-
weeks ago.
No, I actually suggested complex when I put my 2 cents in on the naming, so I had that word in there. But I had like ball field complex or something, which is probably too long, like you're saying.
Could it be something like Sports Park? Like Chuck Casisco Sports Park? Instead of
complex
field or
sounds-
Greg.
complex?
Oh, yeah,
Greg.
let's ask him.
So, from what I remember, and from Cisco's and how much the time and effort they put into it, the quad that's up there is really the main focal point of the baseball that goes on at that youth level.
Yep.
So I think something around the quad complex or something with, doesn't have to be the quad, but those 4 diamonds with the concession stand and everything,
Yeah.
that's really kind of his mark, from my understanding. So that,
What could
if
we
you,
call it?
if it was, because that's where the naming and everything is going to go that way anyways. So if it's something that, if it's Casisco Fields 1, 2, 3, and 4, or 3, 4, 5, and 6, if you want to name the fields each one, or it can just be the concession stand area, and it could be just those 4.
How about just cut Chuck Casisco Field Complex? For those 4 fields.
I don't know if
Or would that be too broad? Yeah,
I would say I almost kind of want us to take Chuck out of it. Just put Casisco Fields. I don't know. That's just a suggestion.
I don't want to take Chuck out
I
of
mean,
it.
the whole family was up there from
I know.
everybody.
I know.
So it'd be almost naming it after the family at that point. Yeah.
Can we think about this a little bit longer so
We
we
can-
don't make a decision tonight?
We can
and
table
not
it till
ready?
next week, or next meeting.
Chuck Casisco from out in the center field.
We should table this.
You want to
If,
table it?
I don't want to rush it.
I mean, put some thought into it.
Yeah.
Let's come to consensus.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I just don't want to rush it and then come up with something that's not.
I want it to be right.
I work with,
I think of water for you.
Yeah.
work with Chuck's daughter. I could
We
talk to
did,
her
we just
about it.
didn't.
With Ron?
Yeah,
Yeah, if they have an idea.
yeah.
Yeah, we can.
That's what I was
table
thinking.
it.
Why don't we ask the family?
Problem with tabling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's,
I told him I work with Vaughn, so, I mean, I can talk to her.
I'll entertain a motion to table this to the next full council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and second to table. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it is tabled. All
Can
right.
we, can I
Who
say
made that
something?
motion? John? You made the
Lisa
motion? Who
did, yeah.
seconded?
Tony.
I just had a quick question. After the complex is named after Chuck, is there gonna be like a marker or anything just to kind of highlight his contribution to that area? Like, you know, the lighting on Field 7, stuff like that. I don't know what your plan was after the
I
dedication.
had shared an image with the mayor. They have a couple different bronze, like, memorial plaques.
Yeah.
That are in the shape of like a home plate.
Mhm.
And you could put an image and everything on there, and you could have text and anything below that would show, that would highlight his
Yeah.
contribution to the parks.
That's a good idea.
Father of SGB and all
Yep,
that.
and,
Yeah.
and that could be affixed right to the concession stand.
Yeah.
So it's right there.
Perfect. That'd be great.
Yep. Okay, well, let's make sure we communicate on that between now and next meeting. Yeah, March 10th, the one John won't be at. Just house you. So, next on the list, I need to entertain a motion to accept or deny the agricultural placement renewal request that we heard earlier in the public meeting, or public hearing.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Do I have a first and a second to accept the agricultural placement renewal request for Francis P. Shin and Peggy A. Gilchrist, 8840 Diagonal Road, 47.06 acres? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that is accepted. All right, item 10, Mayor's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Ring. Thank you to the council people that showed up for the State of the City. I believe that's the most we've ever had there. And I really appreciate the support. Even Mr. Ring was able to watch it afterwards when we uploaded it. And, I just appreciate you guys being there. It is so important for us, especially in this day and age, to show unity and to show support for each other. And I really appreciate you guys being there. Bob Long, audio live streamed it, and he texted me earlier today and said that there had been 61 people that actually downloaded it. And then I just asked IT Matt how the YouTube one went. We've had 64 people view it. So there's 125 people in addition to the ones that were there that actually took the time out and, to watch it. So there are people out there that are concerned, and I'm glad that we had the ability to, to share that with them. And again, thank you all so much. And, keep looking forward. We're getting there. And I'd say a little bit more than slowly, so we're zooming. So thank you, everybody. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, item 11, President of Council's comments. Yeah, Glenn, I'm sorry I wasn't able to make it. I had some very important business meetings.
You're fine.
But
You're forgiven.
Like I said, as soon as it posted up, I did watch it. I made sure to, so.
Moved you right out of your seat, didn't it?
Yeah, I was laughing, crying. Mostly crying, but that's all I have. So, item 12, council members' comments. Ms. Glenn?
Congratulations to the girls' basketball team. Went and watched their game the other day and pulled off the win, and they have another game coming up on Wednesday.
And the
I'll be
boys
there.
play tomorrow.
The boys play tomorrow. Okay, I'll put that in there too. The boys play tomorrow at home, I believe.
Yep.
Correct? Against, I'll let John fill in all the details if you want, unless you want to give them here now.
Yeah, it is.
So the girls are playing Canfield, which they've already played them before,
And they won.
and they won. I watched that game too.
Yep.
And the boys are playing, that's at 8 o'clock on Wednesday in
In Canton.
Canton at the Fieldhouse.
Boys are playing Woodridge tomorrow.
Boys are playing Woodridge tomorrow at home,
Here.
correct? What time?
7 p.m.
7 p.m. Okay, so good luck to both teams.
Very good. Ms. Wagner?
I have nothing, thank you.
Mr. Well, no, we'll go to Mr. Hannah.
Yeah, I actually was going to make some points about just some of the athletic happenings in the city, just to keep track of over the next couple of weeks. Obviously, the girls basketball team is extremely good, one of the top ranked teams in the state. They play in the regional semifinal on Wednesday, possibly regional final on Saturday. And if they win that, they'll get their first ever trip to states, which will be very exciting.
Ooh.
So if they do happen to make it to the state championship game, it would be on Friday the 14th, which would be probably live streamed somewhere. But I think that would be a really cool thing, you know, if they did get to that point. Streetsboro's only had one state championship team in 1997. So it'd be cool to recognize someone. But in addition to that, you know, boys basketball is doing pretty well. Chance to play in a district final if they win tomorrow. In addition to that, though, just a cool little note, Streetsboro has a really good wrestler. His name is Roro Walker. He's ranked like top 5 in the country in the 106-pound weight class.
I remember 106 pounds.
Yeah.
Third grade.
Do you?
Third grade.
So he is an extremely good wrestler. Streetsboro hasn't had a state champion since 2004. He has a very good chance. He's a sophomore. He has a really good chance.
Wow.
He should win a state championship this year, if not the next 3 this year, including the next 2 years. So yeah, just very exciting stuff. Those things are all going to pretty much take place before our next city council meeting. So, you know, newsworthy things to keep your eye on if you want to support Streetsboro.
Would you give me the spelling of the boy's name?
He goes by Roro, Roro, but his name is Giroux. But
Okay. And what's his
Walker. Yeah, very very talented kid for sure, and we're lucky to have him here in Streetsboro. In addition to that, what else was I going to say? I forgot.
Sucks getting old.
I guess I'll remember it when I walk out the door and tell you next meeting. So I'll pass my time on to Tony probably.
Ms. McDaniel?
Well, that's all exciting and fun stuff, and I love it. And I'm just going to say, I don't like surveillance cameras, but in the spirit of cooperation tonight, I can see how it can benefit our city. And I look forward, yeah, well, it's a slippery slope, Mayor. It's a slippery slope. And I look forward to working on the policy so we can balance safety, but really preserve our liberty and our privacy. You know, we can't neglect that. We get so used to being watched, being tracked, being surveilled, and there's a balance to be struck, and I think we can do that. So I look forward to working on that. I cooperated tonight, but I want to be able
And we
to
appreciate
really
it.
participate on that policy. Thank you.
Should we put that on our next meeting, like the retention schedule? Do you
I
wanna
would,
discuss
I
that?
would suggest that.
We'll get
let
together.
Let the heads get together and put something together.
The heads get
Yeah.
That will come from Mr.
Policy.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Mr. Lombardo?
Thank you. Mr. Checkeye, congratulations on 12 years.
No.
Mr. Chesnowski, how many years you been here?
4.
You're only 4, Dad. Never mind. Yeah. 12 years, that's awesome. So, congratulations. Thanks for pointing that out. You still have another 8, so you got a while.
Wow.
Yeah. That's all I have.
Okay. All right, item 13, announcements. There will be a safety committee meeting, service committee meeting, and regular council meeting Monday, March 10th, 2025, starting at 7 p.m. in council chambers.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
First and second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned.
Thank you, good people.
Here's my question.
I think we're going.
Okay, so.